The Hunter Biden plea deal. We know how botched it was, but was it really botched, or was this kind of concocted so that Hunter could claim immunity no matter what happens? We know that Judge Norica rejected the plea deal and apparently the diversion deal, but Hunter's lawyers say that the diversion deal was just a private contract between them and the DOJ, and they've been acting as though it's been totally valid and that it is in effect, meaning Hunter is literally immune. And so this is what Andrew Weismann, a former DOJ lawyer, had to say about this when he was asked about this on Meet the Press. And he says that this was all just kind of a botched ordeal. This was all in shambles, which is absolutely true. It did not go according to plan, but the end game was the same regardless. If Hunter gets immunity, regardless of whether the deal went through or whether it was botched, they win, don't they? So here is Weismann explaining what he thinks about what the DOJ did.
This has to do with the special counsel investigating Hunter Biden, where we got the notation that an indictment could come at a date certain at the end of the month in September. And I guess it feels like there's a missing or if, or something else. If a settlement is reached, like, is there something here? Like, why file that in the future? Why not, if you're going to indict, then indict yesterday?
Well, I have to say, I think that the special counsel, the sitting U.S. attorney and his team really messed this up to a fare thee well. The judge overseeing this asked extremely cogent and normal questions with respect to a proposed agreement that had all sorts of abnormalities. And the assigned prosecutor, when asked, admitted to the judge that there was no legal precedent for the manner in which this was being constructed. That's not to deal with the sort of the substance. And so the court said, I'm sending it back to you. It is really a mess now with respect to the two types of charges. There's tax charges, and then there's this potential gun charge. But Hunter Biden's lawyers have a really good argument that the gun charge has been resolved, that there is a separate standalone agreement that the prosecutors made to defer that case. And so if there are charges...
If that's true, that diversion deal includes broad immunity
that are brought by this special counsel, I think you're going to see Hunter Biden making a motion saying that's precluded by the agreement that we reached, and they're going to ask for specific performance of that agreement. I have to say, it's not the Department of Justice's best and finest day in court, but it's a sign that Merrick Garland really was not involved in this, because this is just not the caliber of work that comes out of the Attorney General's office.
That's just so cute. Isn't that a cute opinion? Well, you know, this was kind of botched, but they're probably regretting it. They're probably realizing it was a bad day in court. I'm thinking to myself, what are you, nuts? They got exactly what they wanted. I mean, if this is the argument that they can win on, and I'm not sure that we're there yet, but it is an argument that they created. The DOJ created this, which is what they wanted. How do we know they wanted it? Because they tried to cram it through in front of the judge. The judge didn't take it, so they just did it on their own. And Hunter's now going to claim it. They gave Hunter exactly what they wanted. So I would say it's kind of the DOJ's best day. Rather than them taking the blame on this as though they orchestrated and concocted a fake scam plea deal to pull the wool over all of our eyes, they just say it was just a mistake. Oh, it was just a mess, and the judge screwed it up, and the whole process came off at the wheels. No, they went in wanting Hunter to have immunity. They didn't get it exactly, but they have the same argument that they can continue to use. And they're going to say, well, Merrick Garland wasn't involved, because if he was involved, it wouldn't have happened this way. It's like, what are you talking about? This is exactly what they wanted. This is all part of the strategy. It's the second best option. They would have liked blanket immunity, but since they couldn't get that, now they're just going to have this gray area. Hunter's going to continue to sort of comply with the diversion. We're going to fast forward a couple years. When Republicans decide if they want to go after Hunter, then he's just going to say, I've got this immunity deal, and I guarantee some judge somewhere is going to uphold it or try to. So Ted Cruz says, enough. We know that there is massive obstruction, massive corruption in the Biden crime family. It's time to get going.
We know that Hunter, for example, texted using WhatsApp a senior Chinese communist official saying, I'm sitting here next to my father, next to then Vice President Joe Biden. I'm sitting here next to my father, and if you do not give me millions of dollars, my father will retaliate and punish you. That, David Weiss and the Biden Department of Justice seems to have no interest in investigating. In fact, the two IRS whistleblowers, who are both career IRS employees, both Democrats, they came forward and said they asked to check the GPS locations to see if Joe Biden was in fact sitting next to Hunter when he sent that text saying Daddy's going to retaliate. And the Biden DOJ said, no, you cannot look into Joe Biden. Absolutely not. They blocked it.
And that's just one smattering of evidence. We know there is a lot more. James Comer says this is probably the biggest scandal we've ever seen because of the intentionality, because of the longevity of it, because they were concocting deals all around the world with Hunter as the bag man. Joe Biden and the Biden crime family is getting paid on the back of it.
Congressman, when you get an impression from Democrats in the House, do you feel like they're scared of an impeachment, or do you feel like they're maybe egging you on?
Well, honestly, Jesse, I think they're egging us on because, history has shown that when Clinton was impeached, the Republicans lost the majority, and when Trump was impeached, the Democrats lost the majority. But what we have here, the difference between, Clinton lying about his affair and Trump having a phone call asking about corruption with Ukraine, which, by the way, did happen by Joe Biden. What we have here with Joe Biden is a situation where he's lied countless times about his knowledge and involvement in what is a major corruption story. I think this is the biggest corruption story that we've ever seen from a high-ranking politician in the history of America.
It is big. Millions of dollars. It involved quid pro quos to get other prosecutors fired, billions of dollars, threats to Chinese energy officials, and so on. And when it's supposed to be investigated by the people who do things like investigations, they're totally involved in the obstruction of any actual consequence. There is no justice. It's an entire double standard. Here's Marjorie discussing.
But it's shocking, absolutely shocking. It seems like every single day more and more comes out. And now we have this information that the European Union completely approved of Viktor Shokin's job and the job he was doing fighting corruption and his investigation into Burisma. But yet it was Joe Biden as Vice President of the United States. He was the one that didn't approve of Viktor Shokin. And we all know why. The 1023 form told us exactly why, because he took a $10 million bribe between Hunter and Joe to get Viktor Shokin fired.
Yeah, it is an extraordinary.
More Marjorie.
Americans to keep up with all of the details that have come out on this story. Yeah. But I think you've also pointed to something that's more concerning, very grave and serious, not only to myself, but people like you, Amanda, and many of your viewers watching your show, is that how many times did people try to come out and tell the truth? How many whistleblowers came out trying to tell the truth and point to the corruption and point to the abuse of power happening with Joe Biden and these very serious high-level offices that he held, but yet every single time they covered it up. And where I'm going with this is the reason why I want an impeachment inquiry, a very long, drawn-out impeachment inquiry, because I believe the impeachment inquiry will start with Joe Biden, and that is who we will be investigating most importantly to see if we need to impeach him. I am already there, but some of my colleagues are not. However, I believe if we pursue a very serious impeachment inquiry and dig very deep into the layers of this, we are going to be uncovering many people, many bureaucrats, many unelected bureaucrats, many people that work in these agencies that also abuse the power of the positions that they have and covered up Joe Biden's crimes. And I think this impeachment inquiry needs to be done. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes all the way to the November 24 election and perhaps further. It must be done, and we have to do it very carefully and in a detailed manner, because I believe we're looking at a giant conspiracy, a very big conspiracy of Democrat officials, not only that were in Obama's administration,
DOJ,
perhaps
IRS.
Barack Obama himself, but also federal bureaucrats that work within the agencies that have all conspired together to cover up Joe Biden's crimes
all in there,
so that they could produce a candidate like a Manchurian candidate and put him in the presidency and then hold all of this over him to force him to do it the way they want it.
Good stuff from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she's right about that. I mean, we saw it openly. We saw the DOJ was obstructing through Leslie Wolf and other people there. The FBI had also their moles. The IRS agents who were also investigating it were involved in this cover-up. Secret Service got notifications from the transition team. Everybody was involved in this cover-up. And every time there's a congressional request, even Christopher Wray's like, oh, the FD 1023, I don't want to show it to you. Why? Why not? Nobody wants to spill the goods on the Biden crime family because I think they're probably all involved in the grift or a similar grift, just making sure that he is protected because they have control over him. Wrapping up with Byron Donalds, who says, enough already, let's go.
Well, look, good to be with you. One real quick point I got to make about government spending, a message to Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans. We're not signing off on any clean CR deal. It's time to secure the border. Now, back to Hunter Biden. The reason why this email is so damning is because once again, it proves that Joe Biden knew exactly what was going on the entire time. time. If he had no idea, why is his communications director putting together an email with Eric Schwerin stipulating to that fact? The reason why you put an email together like this in such detail and they're going back and forth is to try to create further separation. What'll clear all this up are these 5,400 emails that the National Archives has had this entire time, where Joe Biden is using fake names to communicate apparently with his son and a whole lot of other people.
Why do you need Robert L. Peters at PCI.gov email addresses if everything is above board? I don't know why you would need something like that. Why would the DOD or the email server people at the federal government create a fake alias for you? Well, hopefully, as Marjorie says, they keep digging and digging and digging. The impeachment inquiry, whenever we get to it, and I think we'll actually get there at some point, it will be the opening of the box. We'll start looking inside, and we'll look forward to having you join us as we continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.